Mr. President, why are you losing to Trump in the polls?
Joe Biden is reportedly upset at the opinion polls. You would be too if you were president.
Up 5 points on disapproval, down 6 points on approval. This is not the most wonderful way for a president to be heading into a re-election year.
Mr. Biden is said to have sat down with his closest aides before Thanksgiving and told them to do something about the terrible polls. Maybe they could write a letter to Santa or ask for help from the elf on the shelf.
He is the most unpopular president in the history of presidential polling, going all the way back to World War II. You used to have to caveat that by saying, except for Jimmy Carter, he's 11 points less popular than Jimmy Carter is today.
The conventional wisdom now is that Mr. Biden's infirmities have made him a flawed carrier of the administration's message. But how much better would the incumbent's standing be if the same set of policies today were known as Gavinomics?
I'll take Joe Biden at 100 over any of these guys at whatever age they're at because he's delivering.
A crucial but barely mentioned element in Mr. Biden's political fortunes is that he ran for president in 2020, the first pandemic year of economic lockdowns, panic over shortages, and the widespread shutdown of schools. Also worth remembering is that Mr. Biden had nothing to do with this when he was elected.
Do you think Joe Biden emerges from that basement? Does he get out in some fashion to campaign in the next month?
The U.S. president in COVID's first year was Donald J. Trump, who on today's campaign trail is largely silent about his White House briefings in 2020 with COVID response architect Anthony Fauci.
What do you say to Americans who are watching you right now who are scared?
I say that you're a terrible reporter. That's what I say.
Other than the COVID vaccine development, Mr. Trump's inept handling of the pandemic surely contributed to his erosion of voter support. In the event, Joe Biden ended up in charge.
I do believe from this moment, from this crisis, we have an opportunity not just to rebuild the economy, but to transform it.
My reading of the current meltdown in Mr. Biden's opinion poll performance is that the policy choices he and his advisors made in the middle of the pandemic's turmoil were completely out of sync with the deeply personal concerns Americans were living with then and are now.
I would transition from the oil industry, yes.
Oh,
I would
that's
transition.
a big statement.
It is a big statement.
The standard explanation for the public's disaffection is the inflation rate, which reached 9.1% in 2022, outpacing and eroding wage gains into this year. That analysis is correct. Inflation has largely killed the Biden presidency.
The facts are clear from January of 2021. Since the day President Biden came into office, look at this, everything is up more than about 17%.
$6.2 trillion. I've never signed anything with a T on it.
To be sure, Mr. Trump started the pandemic public spending blowout with the $2.3 trillion CARES Act in March 2020, which sent people a one-time federal check. But these at least had some connection to the pandemic itself. Mr. Biden's trillions, beyond extending unemployment benefits and existing transfer payments, went to infrastructure, semiconductor manufacturing, and renewable energy projects. That's like dropping dollars from 50,000 feet.
Ask yourself, do I look like a radical socialist? I'm not out to punish anyone. I'm a capitalist.
We've argued here before that the modern Democratic Party, or at least the people running it, have become disconnected from the daily realities of the private economy in which most people reside.
Trickle-down economics has never worked. And it's time to grow the economy from the bottom and the middle out.
To most Americans, the Biden economic plan looked like pie in the sky.
We are leveraging the Inflation Reduction Act to build a clean energy manufacturing ecosystem rooted in supply chains here in North America, extending to Europe, Japan, and elsewhere.
Washington has spent more than $6 trillion on everything imaginable since the pandemic began, and no one seems to think it had any effect on their lives. America's voters are sending a message, all right, and it's about a lot more than abandoning one unpopular president.
I'll veto any spending bill that doesn't take us back to pre-COVID levels, because our kids are not going to forgive us for all the spending that happened. And as much as everybody wants to talk about how Donald Trump had a good economy, $9 trillion in debt he did just in 4 years, and we're all paying the price of that.